आप सुन रहे हैं रेडियो मनपसंद एफएम 91.1 पर और साथ ही साथ रेडियो मनपसंद ऐप पर। मैं हूं आपके साथ किशोर नंगरानी। बॉलीवुड फिल्मों की प्रेम कथाएं या फेरी टेल्स अक्सर समाप्त होती हैं, दे लिव्ड हैप्पीली एवर आफ्टर। लेकिन अगर वास्तविक जीवन को देखा जाए तो ये जिंदगी कुछ अलग ही तरीके से होती है। विवाह के बाद ही असली प्रेम की परीक्षा होती है। जब चैलेंजेस आते हैं, तरह तरह के चैलेंजेस आते हैं, चाहे फाइनेंशियल हो, सोशल हो या कल्चरल हो। माइग्रेंट दंपति जो होते हैं उनके लिए तो ये प्रेशर्स काफ़ी दुगना हो जाते हैं जब वे एक नए देश में नया जीवन आरंभ कर रहे होते हैं। इन चैलेंजेस के दौरान पति पत्नी अपनी रिलेशनशिप कैसे बनाए रखें ताकि वे एक दूसरे का सहारा बन जीवन के इन चुनौतियों का सामना कर सकें, कठिन सवाल है ये। और इसका कोई जादुई तरीका भी नहीं है। फिर हमारे प्रधान समाज में महिलाओं को अनेक दबावों का सामना करना पड़ता है, चाहे वो फैमिली के हों, चाहे डाउरी अब्यूज हो या फिर डोमेस्टिक वायलेंस हो। ऐसे में कई बार यह एक चारा रह जाता है कि इस बंधन से निकला जाए। हालांकि माना जाता है पवित्र बंधन है, जन्म जन्मांतर का बंधन है, 7 जन्मों का बंधन है, ये अपेक्षा की जाती है। लेकिन ऐसी अपेक्षा करना कई रिश्तों में एक तरह का अपने आप में एक विष भर देता है। तो ऐसे जीवन जीने से तो अच्छा है कि अलग रास्ते अपनाए जाएं। और डाइवोर्स, जहां तक हमारी कम्युनिटी का सवाल है, उसमें एक ऐसा शब्द है जिसका नाम लेने से लोग घबराते हैं। लेकिन ये धारणाएं अब धीरे धीरे बदल रही हैं। और अब हमें देखने को मिल रहे हैं कि जहां पर रिश्ते नहीं चलते हैं वहां पर डाइवोर्स भी हो रहे हैं। सवाल ये होता है कि डाइवोर्स अपने आप में एक ऐसा एक्सपीरियंस होता है जो कि लाइफ चेंजिंग होता है, और उसके बाद लाइफ नेविगेट करना अपने आप में काफ़ी इमोशनल अपीवल्स होते हैं, इमोशनली एग्जॉस्टिंग होते हैं, सेल्फ डाउट्स होते हैं। तो किस तरह से वो लाइफ नेविगेट की जाए आफ्टर डाइवोर्स, वो भी अपने आप में एक बड़ी भारी चुनौती है। तो ये काफ़ी गंभीर सवाल है, और इन सवालों का जवाब देने के लिए आज हमारे साथ जुड़ी हैं एक अनुभवी डाइवोर्स एंड रिलेशनशिप कोच मोनिका कालरा जी। मोनिका जी मेलबर्न में है और शी वाइव नाम की एक संस्था स्थापित की है। मोनिका जी को कई अवार्ड्स भी मिले हैं उनके लेखन के लिए, और उन्होंने अनेक लोगों की जीवन बदले हैं अपनी रिलेशनशिप कोचिंग के साथ, और अपने डाइवोर्स के बाद जीवन किस तरह से नेविगेट किया जाए उसके बारे में सहायता देकर वे खुद इस अनुभव से गुजरी हैं। और आज मोनिका जी हमारे साथ जुड़ी है। मोनिका जी, आपका हमारे कार्यक्रम में बहुत बहुत स्वागत।
Thank you so much, Kishor ji. Thank you for having me. I'm honored to be here. Thank you.
थैंक यू मोनिका जी। आपने, इससे पहले कि डाइवोर्स एंड रिलेशनशिप के बारे में बात करें, थोड़ा सा आप अपने बारे में बताएंगी।
आपने मेरा नाम तो बताया ही है। मेरा नाम मोनिका कालरा है और मैं यहाँ मेलबर्न में रहती हूँ। और अपने डिवोर्स के बाद मैंने रियलाइज़ किया कि उस टाइम मेरे पास कोई खास ज़्यादा सपोर्ट नहीं था। और जहाँ तक सपोर्ट का भी बात है तो परिवार हैं, मित्र हैं, सभी लोग इस टाइम पर आपको एक तरह से छोड़ जाते हैं। या इस तरह का सिचुएशन बन जाती है कि आप अपने आप को बिल्कुल ही अकेला मानते हैं। ऐसा ही मैंने भी कुछ अनुभव किया था। और जब हम एक दूसरे देश में होते हैं तो वहाँ पर वैसे भी और मुश्किलें ये होती हैं कि आपका परिवार साथ नहीं होता। या तो ऐसी स्थिति में मुझे जो सबसे बड़ा सहारा मिला था वो अपने थेरेपिस्ट से मिला था। लेकिन थेरेपिस्ट के पास जाने की भी एक अपनी ही यात्रा थी, क्योंकि to see a therapist or to see a coach in itself is a stigma in our country. And I also went through that same stigma. And I still remember the first time I went to see a therapist. I parked my car 3 lanes down the street so that nobody could see me, even though nobody knew me here. And yet there was so much fear around going and seeing a coach. And as such, I realized it was important for me to step into this. Um, and after I got divorced, I wanted to learn what good relationships looked like, because
हम्म।
we are not taught about relationships in school or at home. We just model the relationships that we see around us in our society or our parents. And so I studied what good relationship skills were, and then I became a relationship coach. After that, I trained to become a divorce coach. This led me to write two books. Both the books became award-winning. One of them is called How Do You Know He's the One? और दूसरी the other one is called How to Heal from a Toxic Relationship. और ये दोनों ही Amazon पे available हैं. This gave me the opportunity to become a speaker, a workshop facilitator, and now I support people, both men and women, who are going through relationship challenges, who are unsure whether to stay or to leave, or people who have divorced and are trying to rebuild, because all the journeys, all the phases of the relationship journey, they are really challenging. And I'm here to support people, and I'm honored to be here.
मोनिका जी, आपने अपने बारे में जो बताया वो काफी प्रशंसनीय है। किस तरह से आपने अपना जीवन फिर से शुरुआत की, नई तरीके से शुरुआत की, और न केवल अपना ही जीवन वरन दूसरों का जीवन भी सुधार रही हैं। और आपने बहुत ही अच्छा एक मुद्दा उठाया कि हम स्कूलों कॉलेजों में जाते हैं जहां हम तरह तरह की चीजें सीखते हैं, लेकिन जो एक सबसे बड़ी जरूरी चीज है जीवन जीने के लिए वो है रिलेशनशिप्स, वो सीखने को नहीं मिलती हैं। और खास करके हम जैसे माइग्रेंट्स के लिए जो कि विदेशों में रह रहे हैं और एक नए देश में जाकर एक नया जीवन आरंभ करते हैं। और दूसरी समस्या ये होती है कि हमारे सामने दो अलग अलग संस्कृतियां होती हैं, दो अलग अलग सभ्यताएं होती हैं। वो रिलेशनशिप पे भी काफी प्रेशर्स डालती हैं। तो किस तरह से इस तरह के जो जब विवाह होता है और आप एक नए देश में आते हैं, जब दो संस्कृतियों के बीच में एक तरह का क्लैश देखते हैं, किस तरह से रिलेशनशिप बनाई रखी जाए एक अच्छी।
आपने बिल्कुल ठीक कहा that when we migrate to another country, there is a pull between how we are raised, where we are taught to stay silent, to save our marriages, to keep our families first. Whereas on the other hand, जब हम दूसरे देश में जाते हैं, there we realize that our emotional needs are equally important.
हम्म।
And by emotional needs, I mean that we want to feel safe in a relationship, we want to be seen, we want to be heard, valued, appreciated, and most of all, respected in the relationship.
हम्म।
So, as such, there is this tug of war between how we are raised and what we are witnessing when we are overseas, when we are abroad. And this leads to an inner conflict. And this inner conflict then leads to self doubt. And we begin asking questions because I have my clients asking me these questions. Am I too demanding? Or what will my family say if I speak up? Or what will my family say if I leave the relationship? And as such, people continue to live in unhealthy relationships because of the consequences, because of the repercussions that they might have to experience. And they are afraid to choose themselves. However, I tell my clients that two realities can coexist. We can honor ourselves, and at the same time, we can honor our culture. So we can respect our roots, and at the same time, we can choose our own well being. And honestly, when I look deeper into it, I feel that this is not a debate between East or West.
हम्म।
This is this is about coming home to ourselves, to our decisions that are made more from clarity rather than from fear and how we are raised in a particular culture.
आपने बहुत अच्छी बात कही इसमें भी। और इस मामले में जब होता है कि आपने कहा कि कल्चरल एक्सपेक्टेशंस या फिर इमोशनल डिस्कनेक्शंस की जब सिचुएशन आती है, खास करके विदेशों में, तो किस तरह की जो है प्रैक्टिकल टिप्स हैं कि हम अपनी रिलेशनशिप जो है अच्छे अच्छे तरीके से बनाए रखें।
That's such a great question. I would like to emphasize that great relationships are not built on luck. And in our culture, we feel that once we get married, somehow the relationship will work. But good relationships and great relationships are built on emotional safety, on our shared values, and at the same time, on our everyday choices. So when we move abroad, we have a double pressure on us. We are not only navigating each other, we are also navigating the expectations from our families back home.
हम्म।
And then we are navigating a new culture whose values may not be similar, which definitely are not similar to how we are raised. And there are certain tips that I'd like to give here, as you asked.
जी।
The first one that I would recommend is to spend 15 minutes together, irrespective of our daily routine. The
हम्म।
couple must spend 15 minutes with each other where we are just simply checking in with each other.
हम्म।
We're asking each other, how are you feeling today? It's not about fixing anything. It's only about listening without judgment.
हम्म।
Because, and at the same time, if during those 15 minutes, you can also add being grateful to each other for something that you have done for each other. Just one little thing. Because in our cultures, I've noticed we are not really grateful to each other. We're always finding faults. You haven't done this, you haven't done this, he can't do this, she can't do this, she hasn't done, he hasn't done. We get into that blame game. Whereas during those 15 minutes after asking how they are feeling, it's about listening, not becoming defensive at all. However, just listening to each other and being grateful for just even one little thing that they have done, the littlest of things that they have done, being grateful to it. The other thing is that when you are having conversations or even otherwise, when we are making decisions, it's about naming the white elephant sitting between the two of us or between the couple.
हम्म।
And that is to name the cultural expectations that are shaping our choices. Because when we name the cultural expectation, we give it space, we bring it into our awareness. And as such, then we can renegotiate on what works for our relationship. Another tip that I would like to give is to reconnect through some small shared moments and following them consistently. Make that as a ritual. And this ritual could be, I'm just giving some examples.
जी।
Everyone can have their own, like going for a walk every day. Make that make sure that you're doing it consistently. Or you could have your dinner together without any screens.
हम्म।
Another one could be that you say your prayers before your dinner or any ritual that you want to follow, but follow it consistently, do it together, spend that time together. Another tip that I would like to give is to learn each other's emotional love language. Now, what do I mean by that? There are 5 types of love languages. Words of affirmation, some people want to hear that they are loved. Then there are acts of service. Some people want you to do some chores for each other. There are others who like gifts. The fourth one is some people prefer physical affection. And the last one is there are some people who want to spend quality time. So, knowing what your own love language is, and then at the same time, learning what the love language of your partner is,
हम्म।
because then you can express love in your partner's language rather than what you feel love is.
हम्म।
Another most important tip that I would like to give is get support early if in case there is a tension in your relationship. Because I generally notice that people come to us when everything is falling apart. And at that time, it becomes a little harder to reconcile and to renegotiate, though it is possible and it has happened.
हम्म।
However, when you can seek support early, then that shows that this relationship really matters to you rather than putting it and shoving it under the carpet, because things can work out much earlier rather than having to live with resentment over a long period of time. So, these are some of the tips that I'd recommend.
आपने बहुत अच्छी टिप्स बताई। आपने जैसा ही कहा कि 15 मिनट तो निकाल सकते हैं, हालांकि यहाँ का जीवन जितना भी भाग दौड़ का हो, 15 मिनट तो हम एक दूसरे के लिए निकाल ही सकते हैं। और दूसरी महत्वपूर्ण बात आपने कही कि देर नहीं लेनी चाहिए सहायता लेने में। कई बार हम लोग आंख बंद कर लेते हैं, सोचते हैं शायद सुधर जाएगा अपने आप। तो वो भी बहुत जरूरी है। आपने बहुत ही अच्छी बातें बताई। अब जहाँ तक यहाँ पर विदेशों में जो भारतीय रह रहे हैं, एक बात तो ये भी है कि किसी न किसी समय या तो पेरेंट्स आते हैं या इन लॉज आते हैं, और काफी लंबे समय तक रहते हैं। आप भारत में रह रहे हो तो फिर तो शॉर्ट विजिट्स होती हैं, लेकिन यहाँ पर आते हैं तो लॉन्ग विजिट्स भी होती हैं। और कई बार ऐसा भी होता है कि वो भी माइग्रेट कर रहे होते हैं और आपके साथ रह रहे होते हैं, तो वो अपने आप में एक नए चैलेंजेस पैदा करता है। किस तरह से उन चैलेंजेस को नेविगेट किया जाए इस सिचुएशन में?
Yes, this is a real challenge because parents do come over, in-laws do come over, and they do stay for a long period of time. And they're most welcome to come and visit children, visit grandchildren. And at that time, the issue is that on the one hand, we want to honor our parents, we want to honor our in-laws, and at the same time, we have to honor the emotional space as a couple. And sometimes when parents or in-laws are visiting us, there can be a chance of clash in values. And these values could be related to parenting, it could be related to managing household chores, or it could be around certain expected roles. And this can feel intrusive or overwhelming when parents or in-laws say something about it. Certain suggestions that I would like to give around this is that have a conversation before their visit.
हम्म।
What do you want this visit to look like? Ask each other regarding your space, regarding your parenting, regarding your meal routines. Have that conversation with each other so that both of you are at the same page.
हम्म।
Another suggestion would be have healthy boundaries. And healthy boundaries, boundaries does not mean walls. Boundaries means bridges. You're bridging the relationship because then you are very clearly stating what is okay with you and what is not okay with you, so that one person does not become a bad cop when parents or in-laws come, because that leads to a lot of resentment. Be very kind, very clear, appreciate what they're doing for us. You could set a boundary in sentences like, "We really appreciate your help, and here's what would be more supportive to us." And
हम्म।
then you state whatever is more supportive to you. That way, you're being kind, you're being clear, and at the same time, the other thing is sometimes. Um, when we feel that we are being criticized, that may not be criticism, that may actually be coming out of concern by our parents or by our in laws. It's just that it's being expressed a little differently. So, being mindful of that. So, when something has been said to you that you feel that it is critical, just take a pause. Feel your feelings. They're just feelings.
हम्म।
The problems begin when we attach certain stories to it, and then there is no end to the stories because we are already triggered and we keep attaching more and more stories. So, it is very important that everyone learns to self regulate themselves, to come back into the present moment. And when we are in that present moment, then it reduces defensiveness. Then it gives us the opportunity of having a choice. And then this leads to more respectful communication. Another suggestion that I would give is that when our parents or our in laws visit us, we can go in a functional mode.
हम्म।
But we have to remember, as I mentioned in your question earlier, we still must continue to spend those 15 minutes together. Those 15 minutes of couple time are a must, irrespective of whether our parents are here or not here. Um, the other thing that I've noticed among my women clients is that they indulge a lot in being the perfect mother, the perfect wife, the perfect daughter-in-law, the perfect daughter. And as such, this people pleasing, which is actually a, a nervous system response, because our nervous system at that point in time is actually in its sympathetic state. And in fact, if we go a little deeper, people pleasing is manipulative behavior. because we're trying to please everyone rather than looking after our own needs. And peace doesn't come from pleasing people, it comes from being clear, from being calm, from being compassionate with yourself and with everyone else. So I would suggest that on make sure when someone is visiting us, our parents or our in-laws, that we are honoring ourselves, we are honoring them. I know it's not very easy.
हम्म।
However, it can be done through kind, honest, authentic conversations. Because it's because of the lack of conversations, because of our lack of boundaries, that we do not know how to navigate these relationships.
आपने जो बात करी फंक्शनल मोड की, आप उसको थोड़ा सा एलाबोरेट करेंगे कि उसका क्या मतलब है?
फंक्शनल मोड का मतलब है कि हम क्योंकि हमें मालूम है कि हमें ये भी करना है, हमें वो भी करना है, हमें ये कुछ करना है, वी हैव टू बी द बेस्ट, द सन वांट्स टू बी द बेस्ट सन, वांट्स टू प्रोवाइड एवरीथिंग, द डॉटर वांट्स टू डू एवरीथिंग, द डॉटर इन लॉ वांट्स टू से मैं ये नहीं कर सकती हूँ, मैं वो नहीं कर सकती हूँ, सो वी बिकम वेरी फंक्शनल, वी बिकम एन on autopilot, and as such there are certain things that might feel intrusive or overwhelming to us, क्योंकि हमें वहाँ भी जाना है, यहाँ भी लेके जाना है, वो भी करना है. And so it is important to step back and spend your couple time together rather than being in that functional mode of being a daughter or a daughter-in-law or a wife.
आपने बहुत ही अच्छी बात कही, और बहुत ही अच्छी ऑब्जर्वेशंस भी हैं। जैसे कि कोशिश होती यही है कि जब पेरेंट्स आते हैं और या इन लॉज आते हैं, तो आपका पूरा रूटीन या बिहेवियर सब तरीके से इम्पेक्ट होता है। और ज़रूरी है कि रिलेशनशिप अगर बनाए रखनी है तो वो आप, जैसे आपने कहा कि एक दूसरे के साथ जुड़े रहना भी ज़रूरी है, वो नहीं भूलना चाहिए। अब कई बार रिलेशनशिप के बारे में आपने बहुत अच्छी टिप्स दी, किस तरह से रिलेशनशिप्स बनाए रखे जाएं, लेकिन कई बार हालात ऐसे होते हैं कि रिलेशनशिप नहीं चल पा रही होती है। और जहाँ तक हमारी भारतीय कम्युनिटी का सवाल है, डाइवोर्स वर्ड जो है काफ़ी बुरा माना जाता है। कैसा, क्यों बुरा माना जाता है, और क्या ये चेंज हो रहा है हमारी सोसाइटी में?
Certainly, Abibi, D is the dreaded word. It is not accepted very lightly. It comes with a lot of shame. It comes with a lot of judgment. Um, but the person who has got divorced, they have not just broken the relationship, they've broken the image that they have upheld of being a good wife, of being a strong wife, being a woman who never gives up. And especially for women, it comes with a lot of judgment. It comes with a lot of blame. Uh, People tend to roll eyes. Mostly family, friends, everyone leaves you. There are no more invitations. They're not invited to many places. And my advice to all of them would be, you're not a failure. It takes courage to walk through the fires of divorce. I will call it the fires of divorce because it is
जी।
so lonely. And at the same time, it comes with a roller coaster of emotions. It is much easier to stay in a relationship that's not working because it seems familiar, but it takes a lot of courage to walk towards yourself, to defy the cultural expectations, to bring disgrace to your family honor in order to uphold what is right for you. And when we are going through divorce or when we've had a divorce, having guilt is natural. But to stay in an unhealthy relationship just to protect an image for family honor, that is self abandonment.
हम्म।
So, honoring yourself is far, far more courageous than what you're expected to do.
हम्म।
I would tell people who are going through divorce, there is no need to justify yourself. There is no need to retell your story because your worth is not up for debate. You
हम्म।
have the permission to heal. I also know the immense loneliness that comes up when you are divorced, because you're not just missing the family that you had, the family unit that you had. You're going through your own guilt because you also had thought that you would be in that relationship for 7 lifetimes. And therefore, this is a time when a person feels emotionally exiled.
हम्म
So look for spaces that can validate your feelings, that can provide you those a safe environment. It could be some supportive communities. It could be joining certain hobbies so that you have people you can talk to. And at the same time, the most important thing is how you're talking to yourself. That self-talk is important. Be as kind as you would to a friend. Speaking kindly to yourself makes a lot of difference, because at this point in time we can be really harsh on ourselves.
हम्म
Being really self-compassionate, nobody else can validate the needs that you have at this point in time as much as you can validate yourself, because divorce is not the end of your story, it's a turning point. Um, People are experiencing a grief cycle during this time. One minute they're angry, the other minute they're blaming somebody, one minute they want to bargain. And on top of that, there is a roller coaster of emotions that one is experiencing. One day one feels right, the other day one doesn't feel, you're spiraling. So be
हम्म
really, really compassionate with yourself, because this is just a chapter in your life. There is a lot beautiful that's coming around in your life thereafter. Have faith in yourself.
जी, आपने बहुत अच्छी बातें बताई। और आपने ये भी बताया कि किस तरह से हील किया जाए आफ्टर डाइवोर्स। डाइवोर्स के बाद जो है, अब जहाँ तक हमारी सोसाइटी का सवाल है, जीवन समाप्त नहीं होता, एक नई बिगनिंग होती है। जैसा कि आपने कहा, एक चैप्टर है, लेकिन वो नई बिगनिंग, नई शुरुआत किस तरह से की जाए, किस तरह से खास करके जो हमारे सोसाइटी में डेटिंग वगैरह अच्छे नज़रों से नहीं देखा जाता, तो किस तरह से नेविगेट किया जाए वो सिचुएशन।
um, आप स्पेसिफिकली डेटिंग के बारे में अगर मैं बात करूं,
जी।
it can feel overwhelming, and I understand that because it is not talked about openly. A person who's had a divorce might have their own doubts. They might ask questions like, am I too old? Will I find love again? What will the society say about it?
हम्म
Um, they also ask, what if I get hurt again? Will I be able to trust him, or will I be able to trust her? So start slow, be curious.
हम्म
You define your own rules. Um, think about whether you want to get into a casual conversation with somebody, or you want to get into a meaningful conversation with somebody. Take your time. Be curious. That's the point. Another thing to ask yourself is, are you ready to date yourself?
हम्म
Because if you ask that question, sometimes the answer is no. And then look into yourself. Why aren't you able to date yourself? What is it that you need to learn more about yourself? Because the past relationship that you have just had a divorce from, that is a golden nugget for you now. Because from there onwards, you can work on yourself. What were the reasons that led to the divorce? It's very easy to blame the other person. However, the other person is never really responsible for the divorce. You yourself are. So look into yourself. Were you able to communicate properly? Were you able to express your needs? Were you able to set boundaries? What was your role that led to the divorce? Because when you are walking on a path of self discovery, then you can date with intention and not with desperation. So your goal should be not to find someone, because this is what happens, that people want to jump into a relationship, or family forces you to get into another relationship because of the loneliness, or because they feel, oh, how long will you remain single for? The goal here is to feel complete in ourselves first, doing our own inner work, understanding our own relationship patterns, such that you realize that you are whole and complete in yourself. No other person In our Bollywood films, it is generally shown that the other person completes you, मैं आधा और दूसरा आधा, and then we become पूरा. No, both of you are 100% complete. So your goal is to look for someone who sees the wholeness in you. And the thing that I would mention is that there is no shame in wanting companionship, in wanting romance, in wanting intimacy. You are human, you're wired for connection, and it is okay to look for another partner. Dating can, I understand, feel awkward, but awkwardness does not mean that you're wrong. It
हम्म।
just means that you're growing, that now is the time for you to look for companionship, and that's okay.
बहुत अच्छी बात बताई आपने। आखिर में बस ये सवाल पूछना चाहूँगा कि अक्सर हमारी खास करके इंडियन वीमेन जो हैं वो रिलेशनशिप में, अनहेल्दी रिलेशनशिप में रहती हैं, कंटिन्यू करती हैं, सफ़र करती रहती हैं। उनको क्या करना चाहिए, किस तरह से वो कदम उठाएं कि अपनी सिचुएशन इंप्रूव कर सकें?
जैसे कि मैंने पहले बोला, that the end of a marriage is considered as not only the end of a relationship, it's the end of our future dreams. It's the end of who we used to be. And we are caught in that grief cycle, that emotional roller coaster. So I would suggest there is no need to bounce back. Slow down. There is no need to make sense of what's happening with you right now. It's very important to feel your feelings. Most of the clients that come to me, 98%, don't know how to feel their feelings. We don't even know what we are feeling. We're just sad. But there are so many layers to sadness that we might be experiencing. As little kids, we have two basic needs. And these needs have been given by Dr. Gebor Mate. And he says one of them is to belong. And the other one is self-expression. We want to express ourselves. A child expresses himself or herself in order to let the mom know that they're hungry, or that there is a need that hasn't been met. And they also want to be loved, because as humans, we are the most helpless species. But in order to belong, in order to be loved at a very, very young age, we give up on our authenticity. We give up on feeling our feelings, because mom doesn't like when you're crying. Mom doesn't like when you ask for something. And so we give up in order to adapt so that our mom can love us. And as little children from 0 to 7, most of us give up on our feelings. So now is the time to sit with your feelings. At times, it can be very intense. I still remember when I went through my divorce, I used to experience panic attacks. And research shows that these intense feelings only last for about 90 seconds. So sit through that wave, irrespective of how painful that is. It's only when we ride through that wave that we come across on the other side. Otherwise, we are numbing ourselves. The other thing that I would recommend is look after your mind, body, and soul, all three of them. And as such, I would recommend doing meditation, doing breath work, going out in nature, having nutritious food. Movement is really important. Exercise, because exercise or movement shifts our energy. And it is really important for our own well being. The other thing that I'd suggest is reconnect with your voice, because when we are in these relationships, we tend to quieten ourselves, we silence ourselves. And so we even forget, what do we want? What do we like? So reconnect with what you want, what you desire, because divorce doesn't define you. And therefore, whenever you are telling your story, tell your story not from a place of failure, but from a place of strength, from a place of your own truth. And at
आपने
the same time, even though seeking support is stigmatized, still stigmatized in our cultures, I would recommend seeking a support of a coach, seeking a support of a therapist, because they can hold a mirror for you. because they're a neutral party. They can show you your role in a relationship and where you need to grow and what your blind spots are, which will help you to grow and, as such, be more whole and complete in yourself.
मोनिका जी, इस डाइवोर्स में अक्सर सोचा जाता है पति पत्नी, लेकिन एक इम्पोर्टेंट जो है एस्पेक्ट रहता है वो बच्चे, चिल्ड्रन, और उनके ऊपर उनको किस तरह सपोर्ट किया जाए और उनके ऊपर क्या इमोशनल इम्पैक्ट होते हैं।
That's a very, very good question. Because divorce not only affects the couple, it affects the emotional world of the child. And in our Indian culture, there is a strong emphasis on staying together for kids. So when a divorce takes place, there's a lot of guilt and a lot of confusion that the parents experience because this is something so new to them. And what harms a child is not divorce, but in fact the conflict, the emotional silence, and being caught between two people that they love. So it's really important for both the parents to reassure the child that the child is loved, that it's not their fault, that they are still their parents. Children should not become messengers or mediators or emotional sounding boards for the parents. Let them love both the parents freely. The other thing that I have noticed is that you may not have an amicable relationship with each other. You don't have to be best friends after you've divorced, but you do need to collaborate respectfully, just as you would in a professional setting for the child's well-being. So if you have to have a conversation, keep the conversation only on the child and their well-being. You don't have to have a personal conversation or answer any questions as such personally, but make sure that you have that conversation amicably regarding the well-being of your child. Model self-regulation to the child. Self-regulation is so important because when you are self-regulating, you are teaching the child as well to regulate their emotions during intense times. The other thing is get support for your child and at the same time, get support for yourself because that's protective parenting. A child does not need a perfect home, but a child certainly needs emotional safety through your presence, through your love, and at the same time, through your honesty. So those are some of my suggestions on how to co-parent after divorce.
आफ्टर डिवोर्स एक सवाल ये भी होता है कि अगर पेरेंट्स के बीच में अनहेल्दी रिलेशनशिप है और वो बच्चों के इंटरेस्ट में वो कंटिन्यू रखते हैं कि बच्चों की वजह से कंटिन्यू करते हैं रिलेशनशिप, इज दैट ए गुड आइडिया और डाइवोर्स करना बेहतर है।
अगर आपका रिलेशनशिप नहीं चल रहा and it is unhealthy, then you are doing more harm to the child than you're doing good to the child. हमारे Indian culture में generally that this is what I hear from my clients, that I'm not divorcing because of the children, because I want the child to be with both the father and the mother. Fair enough. It does more harm to the child because the child is learning not to respect themselves. The child is learning that it is that we have to silence our needs, that we don't have to speak up, that we cannot choose ourselves, that irrespective we have to stay in that relationship. And those are the patterns, the relationship patterns that you are modeling to the child are the patterns the child will experience in their own relationship later on.
हम्म। तो अब ये आपने बात कही, जैसा कि आपने बताया कि एक्सपीरियंस ये रहता है कि बच्चों के इंटरेस्ट की वजह से वो रिलेशनशिप कंटिन्यू करते हैं, और फिर एक बार जब बच्चे छोड़ के चले जाते हैं घर, तो वो रियलाइज करते हैं कि रिलेशनशिप कंटिन्यू करना नहीं कर पा रहे हैं। और आजकल ट्रेंड देखने को मिल रहा है एक ग्रे डाइवोर्स, जहाँ ओल्ड एज में लोग जो है रिटायर हो रहे हैं, लेटर लेटर स्टेजेस ऑफ द लाइफ। क्या वजह है इस तरह के ट्रेंड की?
um, पहले मैं थोड़ा सा एक्सप्लेन करना चाहूंगी व्हाट ग्रे डिवोर्स इज.
जी।
um, when a person chooses to divorce after they are 50 or more,
हम्म।
that's what is called as gray divorce. um, yes, it surprises many on why people are divorcing after 50, but it makes perfect sense both emotionally and psychologically. Earlier, at 50, people used to be slowing down, but now people are living longer. So,
हम्म।
if a marriage is lonely, if it is disconnected, or even if it is one sided, then people have started asking these questions on, is this how I want to live the rest of my life for the next 20, 30 years? And that's why they go in for divorce. Or, as you just mentioned, that after you have raised your children, after you have fulfilled your responsibilities, or after you've kept the family together for so long, and when the children have grown up and they've left home, you suddenly realize that you were living parallel lives, that there is so much emotional disconnection between the two of you. And so people decide to move apart. Another reason why women go in for divorce after 50 is because they've remained silent for a very, very long time, either out of fear, either out of guilt, or even either out of duty. And now they want more. They just don't want to spend the rest of their lives being someone's wife. And that relation too hasn't been working, and they are feeling so emotionally disconnected and lonely within that marriage. Another reason that people have been going for gray divorce is that earlier only physical abuse was recognized, whereas now people are also recognizing emotional abuse, emotional disconnection, constant criticism, loneliness in the marriage. They're all becoming valid reasons for divorce. And even though seeking support is stigmatized, yet it is available. And there are people who are choosing to go for that support. And so people seek for that support after they are 50. Because divorce as at 50 is no longer considered a failure. Because people are choosing their freedom, they're choosing their healing, and they're choosing to return to themselves. I do understand that in the Indian community that this is a taboo. And yet I would say that this is the bravest thing that anyone ever does,
हम्म।
where you are returning home to yourself, to understanding yourself. You're choosing yourself rather than pretending that everything is okay. And that takes a huge courage to divorce at that age.
हम्म। आपने जो है बहुत अच्छे इस जो डाइवोर्स डाइवोर्स खास करके एक बहुत ही डिफिकल्ट टॉपिक है, जैसे बात किया, काफी स्टिग्मा है उसके बारे में आपने बड़े अच्छे से समझाया। और साथ ही साथ ये भी बताया कि किस तरह से रिलेशनशिप बनाए रखी जाए। बहुत ही अच्छी जानकारी दी मोनिका जी। बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद। बहुत ही कठिन विषय है हमारी सोसाइटी में, हमारी कम्युनिटी में। हो सकता है कि इस तरह की बातचीत से एक तरह से ये नॉर्मल कन्वर्सेशन हो सके इस बारे में, बहुत अच्छा होगा। मोनिका जी, आपका बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद आपके समय के लिए और आपकी जानकारी के लिए।
Thank you so much. My pleasure and my honor. Thank you so much.